Obligatory No Way Home spoiler alert here. If there was a reoccurring theme within the properties Marvel released in 2021, then that theme was mental illness. We first got it in spades with WandaVision, which is about the ways we process trauma. Falcon and the Winter Soldier touches on Bucky Barnes' recovery from years of being controlled by Hydra, and the Loki series was an exploration into the titular god of mischief's narcissism. But what really capped the whole thing off was, of course, pop culture landmark Spider-Man No Way Home, which brought back beloved portrayals of characters that we hadn't seen for almost 2 decades in some cases. You would honestly believe no time has passed for some of these characters, like the actors had simply stepped right off the sets of their own original movies, particularly in the cases of Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, and Andrew Garfield. No Way Home feels like a much-needed catharsis for their characters, as Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius died tragically in the Raimi trilogy, and Garfield's Peter Parker was denied a third movie by Sony Studios, so we never got to touch base with him after Gwen Stacy's death. No Way Home almost feels like a post-canon fix-it fanfiction. The inclusion of Norman Osborn, Otto Octavius, Flint Marko, Max Dillon, and Kirk Connors feels extremely specific, as they were not simply evil people, but were all turned into monsters in similar ways, through a science experiment gone horribly wrong. Men who were either victims of their own ambition, or just victims plain and simple. What happened to Max and Flint were pure accidents, and Otto and Curtis were trying to create something good for the world that had unintended consequences. The only one who was really serving his own ego was Norman, and he's the one who pays the biggest price. Most Spider-Man movies are occupied with setting up Peter Parker's origin story and the main romance and themes of responsibility, so there's not a lot of time to develop the villain past Science Man did a thing and now he's evil. Tom Holland's Spidey, however, has already been well established, so by the 30 or 40 minute mark of No Way Home, the villains are being introduced and Peter's learning about the horrendous things that happened to them, which allows Peter to develop pathos for them. Peter usually never gets the chance to really sit down and devise a way to help his villains because he's usually too busy saving his girlfriend or a train full of people, treating the symptoms, not the cause. It's also worth noting that this is the first MCU Spidey movie where the villain isn't an opportunist with a hate boner for Tony Stark. No Way Home takes Holland's Spidey back to his origins, all the way down to the very design of his new suit. This has been a common criticism for MCU Spidey for a while, that Peter Parker is basically just a mini Iron Man. But by the end of the film, there is no Stark tech, no connections through Happy, no emotional support to lean on. Peter is forced to start over from scratch, reinforcing that theme from Homecoming about Peter's bravery and determination being the thing that makes Spider-Man a hero.
I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay?
This movie is unquestionably about Peter. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have brought in Garfield and Maguire to be Holland's mentor/big brother figures. But the villains are the ones who unarguably stole the show. I wasn't even interested in seeing this movie until they released that trailer and revealed that they brought back the man of my dreams, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. Hold me in those tentacles, Octodaddy. The villains were a huge part of the marketing. As much as Marvel Studios did not want spoilers about this movie getting out, they wanted you to know that they brought back Green Goblin and Electro and the Sandman. Because Spider-Man villains are icons, especially these depictions. Despite their villainy, we're made to sympathize with the bad guys, particularly Norman Osborn, who is a real dick in the comics but has been effectively woobified by Willem Dafoe's performance.
And now I'm here in this place, in the city, and I don't know what's going on with me. I don't...
He's just a little meow meow. Norman, particularly in No Way Home, is portrayed as being afraid of the Goblin persona. He doesn't want to do the things the Goblin does. He's as much a victim as anyone the Goblin has murdered. That's why it's so vital for Peter to develop empathy for him, even though it's incredibly hard to forgive Norman after the Goblin ruthlessly murders Aunt May. And that's really what the whole film is about. Forgiveness. Even when it's hard. This is picking up where Spider-Man 3 left off. In Spider-Man 3, the theme of forgiveness abounds.
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
Peter and Harry have to work to forgive each other after their falling out. Peter has to earn Mary Jane's forgiveness for the way he treated her when he was under the influence of the Venom symbiote. Peter forgives Flint Marko for the death of Uncle Ben, and in turn forgives himself for causing the death of Dennis Carradine in the first film. And this is why Peter 2 is the one who gets between Gobby and Peter 1 in the final confrontation. Because he's been in Peter 1's shoes, and if he can stop him from making the same mistake, he will save him from having to bear that guilt. And if any one character embodies guilt and self-forgiveness, it's Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. We learn after the events of Amazing Spider-Man 2, Peter 3 hasn't really allowed himself to heal from the tragic loss of Gwen Stacy. He's pretty much given up on being Peter Parker and become Spider-Man full-time. What's more, Peter 3 admits that he's no longer the friendly neighborhood webhead he once was.
At some point, I stopped pulling my punches.
But Garfield's Peter gets his moment of healing in this movie. MJ falls from the statue and Peter 1 jumps after her, but is thwarted by Gobby. Peter 3 jumps into action and catches MJ before she dies in the same horrendous way that his Gwen did, and as he realizes what he's done, you can see this look of relief pass over him. The Amazing Spider-Man has a lot of self-healing to go through, but saving MJ was undoubtedly the first step toward forgiving himself and becoming the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man once more. And it's nice that the film gave him that. The film gives so many of these characters the gift of being allowed to try and redeem themselves. Otto Octavius gets to be in control of himself again, and the acquisition of the arc reactor hints at the possibility of Otto getting to achieve his dream of creating clean energy for his own universe. Much like Tobey's Peter forgiving Marco was an extension of forgiving himself, Holland's mercy toward Norman is a reflection of him forgiving himself for the death of Aunt May. The question of who's at fault for her demise comes up in the final confrontation.
She was there because of you. I may have struck the blow, but you are the one that killed her.
While Peter rightfully blames the Goblin for May's death, he also blames himself. Because if May had run when she had had the chance instead of sticking around to help Peter, she might be alive.
She's gone. It's all my fault.
Peter blames himself because he thinks that he should have just listened to Strange and sent the villains back instead of trying to help them. Peter essentially loses everything in the end because he did the right thing. This is the sacrifice every Spider-Man makes, over and over. We're used to narratives where the good guy is rewarded for doing good things. Spider-Man is, at heart, an exploration of the price of being a hero. In other words,
Peter, no good deed goes unpunished.
For Peter, there is no reward. All he's left with is the lessons he's learned. And Peter is left in a place similar to that of Peter 3 at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Adrift, lost, on the precipice of a new stage in his life. But like Peter 3 saving MJ and being able to let go of that guilt over Gwen's death, Peter 1's forgiveness of the Goblin offers the beginning of forgiveness for himself. And that doesn't fix what's broken, but it's something. It's hope.